So I looked at this for a while, and people should play with this one and the prior example. So number 2 and number 3, and just see how you feel about aiming. When I check this in, the enemies will be running at you, and you'll try to aim at them and click to fire. And I think on number 2, you're going to find that you're going to die quickly because you can't you can't like aim. It's just impossible. You're always missing the guys. You can't get a good lock. This one's going to be a lot better, but it's still going to feel a little bit weird. So I finally said, okay, I knew that a reticle was the right way to go to a mouse, but I had to explore those just in case, because you just never know. You've seen a lot of different games where they don't have a reticle, so I said, okay, somebody really smart made that possible, but without writing like 200 lines of code to do all kinds of checks and stuff, it's easier to go with a reticle. So we're going with a reticle, and a reticle is nothing more than an object that displays where our cursor is, and then what we do is we draw. I can't show you on the screen here. We draw a line from the player to the reticle, a virtual line, a vector, and we figure out what angle that is, and we simply rotate our character to face in that direction. So this is another piece where we're going to want to go back and take it apart. Like I said, we're doing code light today. We're going to get to some interesting code in a minute, but the reticle and aiming code has a little trick that has to do with layers in the world, the camera interaction, and how the reticle stays with the player. When people try to do this the first time, they'll almost always do it wrong. They will put the reticle in the same group, display group, as the player, and then they'll move their cursor around and everything will be fine until they move, and then suddenly it'll go wacko. The cursor either won't be where they think it's supposed to be, or it won't be aiming in the right direction. And what's going on there is your camera code is updating the relative position compared to where your mouse input is. So my mouse input, when I launched this initially, right now, oh, stop it. When I launch this right now, my mouse is in the center of the screen. But now if I walk over, my mouse is still in the center of the screen, but with relationship to the world, the display group that the player is in, it's no longer in the center. It's offset. So this is kind of a tricky concept that people stumble over with cameras, and it really goofs you up when you use reticles as input. So we will take the time, either next week or in a future show, we can decide at the end here what sounds the most interesting, is to break this down and understand why it's different and then how to fix it so that people don't stumble on it later. But I want to go on to, so I got this far and I said, okay, you know, we said zombies, we're going to do zombies. How can I get some zombies in there real quick? Well, the easiest way to get some zombies in there really quickly is to use somebody else's art. So what you're seeing here, I will go ahead and run the desktop version in a minute so you can see it a little bit better. But what you're seeing here basically is Reiner's artwork for the player in the center, which has got an error, and we'll discuss that error, and for the zombies, which you're only seeing one zombie at this point. So Reiner, whose link I have included in the, let me find it, in the images folder under Reiner's, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, you will find a text file called source, which if you open it, you will find a link in it which will take you to Reiner's webpage. And Reiner is this guy who did a ton, a huge, just a humongous collection of orthographic, projected.
Would you say it's a plethora?
Yeah, I'd say that. Well, this is like 100 of them, easy. And I mean, he's got everything here. Really nice stuff too. I've used this stuff in like other demos I did before, but he's got buildings and walls and traps, and he leans towards RPG elements.
Yeah, so, these are some really great things. I used them in my textbook as well. So really great stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff, and I encourage people to use this if they're just doing demo games and they want to show off their skills and they don't want to do art, like they're not an artist like me. But
and give him credit.
All right, you got to give him credit. You got to put credit. That's one thing. He's got a credit requirement in here, which is I am giving him credit here, but he's got a credit requirement for anything you release. You can use all of his artwork without paying for it, but you have to give a credit statement. The other thing you're seeing here is I quickly cobbled together a background graphic from the Lost Garden. God, I can't remember his name. Anyways, I'll put a credit statement in here too. But he's got a huge collection of artwork for doing backgrounds and some characters and some other stuff like that. That once you go there and see it, you'll be familiar with it. But I just needed something so this wouldn't look too horrible while I was working on this. So let's talk about, first of all, the mistake that I made here. And then I will show you how the artwork is put together. So let me run the desktop version because that is large enough for you to see the mistake.
Looks like your character is breakdancing.
Yeah, my character is definitely breakdancing, and that's the mistake. This is a stupid thing that I did. I couldn't even figure out what was going on for a minute until I remembered. Okay, so you can see my character in the middle, and as I rotate, he seems to be doing the right thing. If I don't rotate and I just walk, he looks right. He's like, that looks correct, right? Like, sort of. Walking, shooting, everything's cool. Except, only if I face upwards. Like, he gets all goofy if I do anything else. So the problem is I went from code here with the basic reticle, where I was rotating my character to point in the direction of the mouse. And this all looks correct, right? Because I wanted my cursor to reflect the direction I was aiming. And I totally forgot that I was using these animations, these sprites from Reiner, where he's already incorporated the rotation. So I don't need to also rotate my character. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in this one, I fixed the problem. So now the character is right. He's facing in the direction, basically, that I'm facing. But he's not doing that weirdo breakdancing thing. So I'll show you the code. But one side effect here is you'll notice as I rotate that he snaps to certain rotations. He's got basically 8 cardinal directions: north, northeast, east, and so on and so forth. Around. I better kill these guys before we die. Before he rotates in the correct direction to face where we're firing. So
I see you're also tiling the background too.
Yeah, I also tiled. Whoops. Yeah. And then I died. I can't watch the camera and respond and obviously play at the same time. But yes, I tiled the background just quickly so that it wouldn't look horribly ugly. If I go far enough over the right or left, it's ended, and we're off the edge of the world. But this is where I wanted to say, before I show you how I did this, is that art influences the design of the game. Before I had chosen artwork, and I had just the basic reticle, I had no requirements on how I moved. I could move in any angle and direction I wanted, and everything seems natural. I mean, this is very basic, but it seems natural, fairly natural. But perhaps even here you can see that there's a problem. So I can move up and down and be facing away from the direction that I'm walking, which may seem unnatural depending on what you're trying to do with your game. So in some shooters this works totally, and they've compensated for it by having the correct animations. But if I'm running this animation and I'm facing a certain way, and then I'm moving left to right or up and down, this no longer looks correct. It seems somehow wrong. So this is, and also I've only got the cardinal motions, right? So when I get an angle which isn't quite correct, and I'm, whoops, idiot. This is why I can't have enemies, because I can't have a discussion and talk about this. But you can see that my cardinal directions of my animations aren't quite matching up with the way he's firing. It may be a little bit hard to see here, but something seems unnatural about this. And so what I've decided to do, I haven't done it yet, we'll do this when we go into the game design, is instead of allowing omnidirectional facings, we will limit the character to the 8 cardinal directions as far as facing. So it will always be snapped both for the animation and for the aiming. So you'll be able to aim at an angle difference of 45 degrees. 0, 45, 90, 135, 180, and so on. Additionally, instead of using this omnidirectional movement, which I've got here, so up, down, right, left, I'm going to slave the up key to move you forward. So whatever direction you're moving, you'll move in that direction.
So even though your cursor is pointing in one direction, your character will still face the appropriate direction when they move.
So your character will face correctly, and then if I push up, instead of moving up, he will move like this. So this is now up, or this is now up. So it's always going to be the A key, the W key, can't remember my WASDs. W key will be forward instead of up. So there won't be up, left, right. There will be forward, backwards, left, and right, which will seem more natural than what I'm doing now. I can figure it out in my brain, but it's like, this is just wrong. Something's just wrong here.